Friends swapped wives after drunk in a party is a real story of forbidden love. Before starts the story, please subscribe me for more. Hans and Greta had always been the heart of their little group. Their home was warm and welcoming, a place where laughter echoed late into the night. Michael and Elise were their closest friends, a bond forged over years of shared vacations, countless dinners, and a camaraderie that felt unshakable. The evening had started like any other, with jokes, music, and endless glasses of wine. They had gathered to celebrate Greta's promotion, a good excuse for a quiet night of indulgence. By the third bottle, the conversation had turned philosophical. Do you think humans are truly monogamous by nature? Elise mused, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Michael rolled his eyes playfully. Don't start with your theories, Elise. Not everyone shares your unconventional ideas. But why not? Hans interjected, leaning forward. We're conditioned to think a certain way about love and relationships. Maybe it's worth challenging that sometimes. Greta raised an eyebrow but said nothing. She knew Hans loved these intellectual debates, but there was something different about his tone tonight, a quiet daring that unnerved her. The night wore on, the boundaries of conversations stretching further. They talked about love, fidelity, and the unspoken desires that simmer beneath the surface of every relationship. And then, amidst the haze of laughter and alcohol, Elise's suggestion changed everything. What if we actually tried it? She said, her voice both playful and serious. The room fell silent. Greta felt her heart quicken, her mind racing. She glanced at Hans, hoping he would laugh it off, but instead, he looked intrigued. You're not serious, Michael said, though his voice wavered. Why not? Elise challenged. We're all adults. It's just one night. It started as a dare, a reckless experiment fueled by intoxication and years of suppressed curiosity. None of them thought it would change anything. The light streaming through the curtains felt harsh, unforgiving. Greta woke first, her body heavy with regret. She looked at Michael, asleep beside her, and felt a pang of guilt that cut deeper than she expected. Downstairs, Hans sat at the kitchen table, staring into his coffee. Elise joined him, her expression guarded. Morning, she said, her voice thin. Hans nodded, but the usual ease between them was gone. The silence stretched, heavy with the weight of what they had done. When Greta and Michael finally joined them, the atmosphere was suffocating. They exchanged awkward pleasantries, each one pretending the night before hadn't happened. But the truth lingered in every glance, every unspoken word. They left soon after, each couple retreating to the sanctuary of their own home. For Michael and Elise, the aftermath was like walking through a minefield. Elise seemed unbothered at first, brushing off the incident as a fun experiment. But Michael couldn't shake the unease. Do you even regret it? He asked one night, his voice trembling. Elise sighed. It was one night, Michael. Why are you making this such a big deal? Because it is a big deal, he snapped. We cross a line, Elise. And I don't think we can go back. Elise didn't respond, but the distance between them grew with each passing day. For Hans and Greta, the fallout was quieter, but no less devastating. Greta withdrew, her usual warmth replaced by a brittle coldness. Hans tried to bridge the gap, but his attempts felt hollow. Talk to me, Greta, he pleaded one evening. What's there to say? She replied, her voice flat. You didn't hesitate that night, Hans. You wanted this. Hans opened his mouth to protest but stopped. He had wanted it, at least in the moment. Now, he wasn't so sure. Weeks turned into months, and the four of them drifted further apart. Their once-weekly dinners were replaced by sporadic texts and strange phone calls. The first real confrontation came at a mutual friend's wedding. Forced into the same space for the first time since that night, the tension was palpable. Greta avoided Elise entirely, while Hans tried to make small talk with Michael, who responded with clipped, one-word answers. It was Elise who finally broke the silence, pulling Greta aside during the reception. Are you really going to let one night ruin everything? Elise asked, her tone defensive. Greta stared at her, disbelief flashing in her eyes. You think this is about one night?
You shattered my trust, Elise.
And you don't even seem to care. Trust. Elise scoffed. It was your husband who suggested it in the first place. Greta's face went pale, her hands trembling. She hadn't known that, and the revelation hit her like a punch to the gut. In the end, the friendships didn't survive. Michael and Elise tried therapy, but ultimately decided to separate. Elise moved to another city, chasing a fresh start, while Michael stayed behind, haunted by what could have been. Hans and Greta stayed together, but their relationship was never the same. The trust between them had been irrevocably broken, and though they tried to rebuild, the shadow of that night loomed over them. Years later, Greta would describe it as the moment she realized how fragile love could be. One night, she would say, was all it took to unravel everything we thought we had. This extended version delves deeper into the emotional and relational consequences of their actions. Let me know if you'd like any further adjustments.